So if we do that, we can look at different things. This is from a book on a website. The book is very good. It's on the website, but also called Rainwater Harvesting. So we start to get into more practical things. So it's interesting to see broad scale. But in a practical level, how can I use it on my home? Well, this is called planting the rain to grow abundance. What is that concept? How do I plant things to collect rain? And if I can do that, I can grow abundance. A lot from this website. So here is on the side of a highway. The highway is actually a rainwater harvester. It's a compacted surface. So when it rains, the water is going to shed off. So they go to the side of the highway and they design systems to slow down the water to create erosion. So this is a planting system. So in a lot of these situations, we can go in and devise systems to collect water in swales. So a swale doesn't have to be that stereotypical model that we see on the infographics. A swale is just an own contour dispersion. So here we see that. If I'm in a dry situation, I can dig down and I plant my tree actually into a hole, similar that we saw in the garden bed. So this technique, and then I can take the roof water from my home, for instance, or from the road or any other surface, and I can navigate it to the sunken tree. So here, in a wet situation like the wet, dry tropics, we do this 2 times a year. So if I have a little seedling and it's the rainy season, I'll actually mound up around the seedling because I don't want the roots to get too wet. And next year, when it's dry, I pull the mound down and I make a berm so I collect the water. So it's very easy for watering. You can break up your watersheds. So this is that cut the curb again. We can go into and look at how we can use our parking lots, for instance, to move water around. This is a subdivision they built the homes. So all of the rainwater that's collected, for instance, in a desert in Arizona, they collect the water and they push it to the center of the subdivision. And inside of there at the beginning, that's what it looks like. And then towards the end, it grows into a little oasis, if you will. This is a layout of that particular subdivision where none of the rainwater is able to leave the subdivision. So it's a very new concept. And now some places in the world are actually making that a law. You're not allowed as a designer or an architect or engineer to allow water to leave the property. So this is a co-housing development. That's another thing that's happening with community more. People are deciding to live in, say, co-housing. They're not maybe getting married. They want to have a room, but so it's kind of like I never left college. I have my roommates. So this co-housing community, you see the garden landscape? That's depressions, right? Those are swales. So again, a swale does not have to be a ditch. A swale is just a depression that's flat. So when it rains, the rain goes into the depression. So they took the depressions, they put in mulch, they planted trees. So again, this is a very dry situation in a desert, but they're utilizing swales in between the homes to capture all of the water, so no runoff. Raised paths, sunken beds. Again, here we look at situations. This was where they did cut the curb. So the parking lot was draining a lot of water into the street. So in that instance, they went and they cut the curb, and then they drained the water into a swale. So they went in, they dug out the dirt, took the dirt out, made a swale depression, mulch plantings, and then they're able to capture the water into the swale depressions. Again here, same thing. I have rainwater harvesting off of my roof to a gutter. It can come down, and I can make what's called a rain garden. So my garden is basically, that little garden area is getting the rainfall from the roof to there in a sunken situation or a swale. Be careful though. Don't put that too close to your house. You don't want to flood your home. So you're not putting your home in a depression. You're raising your home and you're lowering the landscaping, okay? That's contrary. Typically, we saw landscaping raised and our driveway sunken. So they're flipping this concept in architecture. Raise the path and sink the bed. Again, we can look at here and we can get ideas about through flow. How much should I make a sunken depression for the size of a tree? And that can be a relationship to how tall the tree is, so we can see that relationship. So if they're designing those. Little swale depression, again, 2 trees. And here we can see it at a business. So the business went in and they created a swale in front. So they actually had a landscape architect. This is quite a good business for permaculturalists. You'll go in and you go and you say, look, I can help you with your landscaping. I can help you with your architecture. So that swale depression, after the rain held the water, it was not allowed to run off, right? But you come back the next day, it soaks in, and then those plants are able to have that water. So this is kind of the concept. The original house utilized raised surfaces and pushed all the water to the street. So any water that fell had to go to the street. But now, instead, they're putting the water into the soils. So different look at what we might call landscaping. Instead of raised and pushing water away, now we're trying to bring water to the landscaping. So here is, again, an aerospace and mechanical engineering. Very poor runoff. All the building catches the gutters, and it goes straight to the street. And then all of that water goes into the street, and the city has to deal with it. The city comes and says, you can't do that anymore. That's not legal. You can't take the water from your roof and push it into the street, and then we have to have what's called stormwater systems, and they're over flooded, right? It causes flooding. So now they came in, they dug swales. So those are swales. And then the water fills up the swale. If there's surplus, it can go to the street, but only surplus, and then it soaks in. So the tree gets access to the water, and it doesn't push that water into our stormwater systems. So that's kind of what this looks like. But again, be careful. Don't do it too close to your house. You don't want to saturate the water that your house could basically sink because you had too much water next to your foundations. So these are other buildings, people doing this around the world. At the level, the water's coming off the building through its rainwater harvesting into sunken planter systems or rain gardens. This is a rain garden. It's kind of masked, but if you look inside the hedge, it's sunken. So the water coming off the buildings is brought into the center, supporting the plant growth, but you don't really notice. So this is the idea. If you get it very lush, collecting all the rainwater and using the rainwater to support the irrigation. We can do things like blockages. So if we come in, the water could easily go out, but if I can come in and I put a block, I can back flood. So it has to back flood, soak in, but if there's any excess, it can come out. This is called catch and pan. So if I'm on a hillside, right, and I plant my fruit trees, and the water's coming down, instead of putting swales that are big ditches, right, this one we just put like a crescent, and if that crescent fills up, it overflows to the next crescent. So if I have my grid pattern, remember I said the triangles, the net and pan, so the water comes down the hillside and like pinball machines, so it slows it down. So very appropriate technique. So here we go, net and pan down a hillside, allowing water to be harvested for your fruit trees. This is the idea that there's an outdoor kitchen, and they have their washing machine there. And so the idea is, well, if you do your washing, right, where do you put the water? So if you're using, like for instance, you learned today to make your natural soaps, right? So you can wash your clothes. My clothes are washed with that. Our sheets are washed that way. Everyone that lives here washes. It's good. And so at that point, though, but where's the water go? Where's the hose go? So here we can see, we start to look at, where does the water from my roof go? Where does the water from my bathtub go? Where does the water from washing my clothes go? And in this instance, this person has a pipe going underneath there to the sunken bed, and they're using, when they wash their clothes, they water their garden. Start to look at forming of land. So here we can see the raised rows, sunken beds, and this flat land that would have been formed to harvest more water would then become, and you can see where the lushness comes. So don't allow the water just to go off, sheet off. And this happens in dryland situations a lot. Very, very flat, the water sheets off. If we can come in, we can keep the water to stay on site. We can grow the trees, we can change the landscape. Even if it's a river system, instead of pushing the water into the river, look at this, they reversed it, the direction. So a slight slope allows any water to go back to the land, soak in to the river. No overland water flow. In these instances, people have like driveways. So I have my house and there's this big concrete driveway or something like this because the previous owner did that, right? But why do I need all that concrete? So this person went in and they cut their concrete driveway so they could just park their car. But when their car wasn't there, they could still have their garden, right? And this business, in front of their business, they had concreted everything with the black asphalt. And the city came in and said, you can't do that. You've asphalted the entire land, so your water 100% has to be taken care of by the city. That's illegal. You have to come in and rip that up. So they came in, they hire a contractor, he comes in, and he takes up all the asphalt and he puts in garden beds. So now their roof water goes into the rain bed, the rain gardening, and recharges the aquifer. Porous pavement, again, this aspect that I can look at, why do we have to put down concrete that doesn't allow the water to go in and sheds off, right? So in this instance, we can use that with stones like we do here. The red stones are quite easy to put a path When it rains, I can still walk and water can infiltrate. You can buy concrete that interlock pavers. It still allows it to do this. So think about that, round or dense with little pebbles or angular. And when you're designing your pathways on your design, so I have this building here and this building here, and you have a path from this to here, what are you going to make your path out of? Is your path hardscaped or is it a softscape? Is your path allow you to harvest water, sink it in, or are you going to use the water and push it off? What are you going to do with it? So here, again, just a different concept. Are you trying to take your yard and push all the water to your driveway to the street? Because that was a very old design. That's what people did. That was how the landscape architects would design the landscaping, to take excess water to the road. But now they're reversing that trend and they're saying, wait, you shouldn't be able to do that in a dry situation when there's lack of water. So people are having in these some of these areas where these laws are coming into effect, it's because you can only use the water at your house for certain times of the day. They call it being on a standpipe. So they only turn on the water. You can water your grass only at this time because you don't have access. You can't go turn on the water. You don't have it. So we need to save more water, and these are techniques that help us. Certain companies are being paid, so they do grants to a company. It's a new business. They say, if you'll put in permeable pavement, we'll give you a tax relief. So this company decided, instead of putting a traditional concrete, say paving for their car park, they put in gravel. So this is after a big rainfall event. There's a little bit of holes. That's not that bad. They could put some more gravel, right? But all the water that rained went into the soil. It wasn't sheeted off into the stormwater drains. More of an architect showing you how, if you were doing landscape architecturing, this might be at a university, for instance, nice little courtyard. How would I look at this courtyard situation and understand the water flows? That I was taking the hard pack, the pavement, where I was walking, for instance, my pathways, and directing the water to the beds or to the landscaping.